friendly Scoutmaster. In this video, I'm going to show you how I like to set up my tent to be comfortable at summer camp. Hey, right before we get in this video, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel. As always, thanks for watching, and now back to the video. Alright, real quick before I show you how I like to set up my tent for summer camp, let's talk about the differences between summer camp tents and tents that you probably are going to take on a weekend camp out with your unit. So the first big difference is you're going to be at summer camp for usually about a week or so. And so the tents that we're going to use at summer camp are larger because we want you to have more space so that you're more comfortable for that week at summer camp. So being larger, they can accommodate things like a cot for you to lay down and sleep on, which is generally more comfortable than laying down on the ground. And then also, unlike probably the tent that you take on a weekend camping trip, the summer camp tents, generally speaking, don't have an integrated bug screen, so that you'll need to bring a separate item, a bug net. So those are some of the big differences between a summer camp tent and a tent that you probably would take backpacking or on your weekend camping trip. So with all that being said, let's show you how I like to set up my tent for summer camp. So these tents are not waterproof, and in fact, many times they have tears or holes in them. So to make the tents waterproof, the first thing we're going to do is take a heavy-duty painter's drop cloth, and we're going to put it under the roof by tucking it first under the ridge pole. Notice that we're tucking it between the tent fabric and the pole, and this friction will keep it in place. Alright, and the next step is to take the drop cloth and tuck it up under the very top ridge pole, which is at the very, very top of the tent. Now this may be very high up and you may not be able to reach it, so you might consider using a stool, a ladder, or the trunk that you brought all of your camping gear in, and just take your time, be safe, and work your way down the ridge pole, tucking up underneath, all the way down, trying to keep it nice and smooth. And this drop cloth, it's waterproof, and it's going to turn your non-waterproof tent into a waterproof tent. So if it does rain, rain might soak through the, in this case, the green tent, but then it'll travel down the drop cloth and you won't get wet. And so when you're done, just come back down to the side and just kind of pull it nice and taut so that it takes all the slack out of the plastic. And so now what we want to do is hang our bug net inside the tent. So to do this, I tie an overhand knot on the bug net itself, and then I tie a clove hitch around the pole. So just take your time, start with the grommet located towards the back of the tent on the bug net, tie it off first and then work your way to the middle grommet on the bug net and tie it off second, and then end with tying off the grommet on the bug net that's closest to the front of the tent. This way the bug net is not getting in your way as you hang it inside the tent. Next, you'll want to hang the bug net up so that off the top of the ridgepole, so that when it's pulled taut, it will form a box or square that will cover your tent. And to do this, a good knot would be the taut line hitch. That way you can adjust it as needed. Alright, so to finish off the bug net, just take your time, adjust the lines down the ridgepole if necessary, and adjust the taut line hitch to make sure that the bug net is evenly spread out inside the tent so that it will cover your cot. Alright, after we've hung the bug net, the next thing we need to do is we want to bring in a tarp, if you have one available, and then spread it out on the floor. Now the tarp is kind of like some carpet in a sense, and it kind of protects your feet from splinters that might be on the wood floor. Once you have the tarp in place, build your cot outside the tent, and then bring your cot inside the tent and carefully place it on top of the tarp. Now be careful to fix the bottom of the tarp where it's completely underneath the cot. So just take your time and work your way around and get this part right. Just take your time and be patient. So for adults, it's really comfortable if you take a thick air mattress and put it on top of your cot. So if you're going to use an air mattress, I like to use a fitted sheet and tuck it around the mattress, air mattress, like I would my regular mattress at home on the bed. It doesn't really matter if you use bed sheets or a blanket or a sleeping bag. Just to finish off this step, just get your bed ready for your week at summer camp. So real quick here, a couple of hacks that I like if you're going to summer camp where it's warmer is put your foot locker, your trunk at the head of your cot if you have space, and then use a battery powered fan to blow air on you all night. I also don't really like taking a warm sleeping bag. Instead, I like using a blanket and some bed sheets, and that way it's a lot easier to stay cool at night and not get too hot sleeping inside of a sleeping bag. Alright, now that your tent is all set up for summer camp, make sure whenever you leave your tent, leave the camp, that your tent is fully buttoned down. That means you lower the flaps on the front and the back, you fasten them together so that when it rains or high winds come up, the tent is completely sealed. You want to make sure on the sides of the tent, on the corners, that they're what we call blouse, which means you have string running down through the grommets around the pole, and then it's tied off at the very bottom so that gusts of wind can't lift up the corners of the tent and blow rain inside your tent. So this is what your tent should look like when it's completely buttoned up and ready for any rain or wind that may happen while you're away from your tent. If you don't do this, you might come back to a wet sleeping bag and you and your tent mate will be very unhappy. All right, well, that's how I set up my tent for summer camp. I just want to remind you that pay close attention, be diligent, so that whenever you leave your campsite, you've completely closed up your tent, so that if you have a gust of wind or it happens to rain, you won't get water inside your tent. Also make sure that you tuck your bug net in around your cot, so that when you get home, get back to your tent for the night, it'll be exactly the way you left it. I hope you have a fun summer camp. Thanks for watching this video.